It all started with the roar of an engine that wasn't mine. My ATV, the one I had saved up for months to buy, was tearing down the street with someone else on it. My stomach dropped. That sound was burned into my head. The sputter, the growl, the way it shifted gears. I rushed to the window and couldn't believe what I was seeing. There she was, Karen's spoiled daughter, Tiffany, grinning like she owned the world, while ripping through my neighborhood on my ATV. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from, because trust me, you're going to want to see how this unfolds. That day had started out so normal it almost felt cruel how fast it flipped. The sun was shining, my tools were laid out in the garage, and I was planning to take the ATV down to the trail by the creek. I'd even checked the oil that morning, wiping my hands on an old rag, humming to myself. It was supposed to be my day of peace, away from the constant drama that came with living next to Karen and her family. But peace never lasts long when you've got a neighbor who thinks HOA rules put her above the law. At first, I thought maybe I was hallucinating. Maybe I left the garage open and some joyrider zipped by. But no, it was definitely Tiffany. Her long blonde hair flying in the wind, that smug smirk plastered across her face, and the audacity to wave at me like she was doing me a favor borrowing my property. I stormed out of the house, my boots crunching the gravel, my pulse hammering in my ears. The smell of gasoline still lingered in the air, mixed with the faint trace of her perfume as she zoomed by again, circling like a shark teasing its prey. "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted, my voice carrying down the street. Neighbors started to peek out their windows. Some even stepped out onto their porches. Tiffany slowed down just enough to look me dead in the eye and yell back, "What are you going to do about it?" "My mom says this whole neighborhood is ours anyway." Then she revved the throttle, the engine screaming louder than the collective gasps of everyone watching. My fists clenched. I wasn't just angry, I was shaking with a mix of disbelief and rage. I sprinted toward the garage, and sure enough, the lock on the door was broken clean off. She hadn't just borrowed my ATV, she had broken in. That detail set everything on fire inside me. It wasn't some careless mistake, it was theft, plain and simple. I could feel my neighbors' eyes burning into me, waiting for what I'd do next. Some whispered to each other, some recorded on their phones, and I knew right then this wasn't just between me and Tiffany. This was about to blow up into something far bigger. The roar of the engine came closer again as she made another pass, laughing this time like it was some game and I was just the angry audience. "Give it back!" I yelled, stepping closer to the curb, daring her to stop. Instead, she skidded right in front of me, dirt and gravel spraying my jeans, and leaned forward with a wicked grin. "You can't touch me," she sneered. "Mom says I'm untouchable." Her words cut sharper than the flying rocks. My blood boiled. The neighbors gasped again, a mix of shock and murmurs rising like a tide. Tiffany wasn't just stealing my ATV, she was flaunting it, daring me to react, knowing full well that her mother would back her no matter what. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about an ATV anymore. This was about power, entitlement, and the unspoken war. Karen had been waging on this neighborhood since the day she moved in. My ATV was just her daughter's newest weapon in their twisted game. And if I didn't put a stop to it now, things were only going to spiral further out of control. I grabbed my phone and dialed the non-emergency police line, my hands trembling with anger. The operator picked up, and I spat out the details as fast as I could. Stolen ATV, forced entry, underage driver. She assured me an officer would be dispatched. But while I waited, Tiffany decided to up the ante. She swung the ATV into my yard, tearing up the grass I'd spent weeks reseeding. Clumps of dirt flew into the air as she left deep tire marks across my lawn. Neighbors gasped again, some shouting for her to stop, but Tiffany just laughed like it was a private show she was putting on for the block. "Do you think this is funny?" I yelled, my voice hoarse now. Tiffany stopped in the middle of my yard and turned off the engine, letting the silence hang heavy for a moment. Then she climbed off, strutting toward me with her chin high, chewing gum like she didn't have a care in the world. "You're so dramatic," she mocked, blowing a bubble that popped loudly enough for everyone to hear. "It's just an ATV. My mom says if it's in this neighborhood, it might as well be ours." The arrogance in her tone made my jaw tighten. She wasn't just parroting her mother's nonsense, she truly believed it. That's when Karen herself stormed onto the scene, heels clicking against the pavement. sunglasses perched on her nose like she was royalty surveying peasants. "What's going on here?" she demanded, though her voice was more accusation than curiosity. When she saw me standing across from her daughter, she pointed her manicured finger at me. "Don't you dare yell at Tiffany. She's allowed to use whatever she wants in this neighborhood. That's what HOA fees are for." My mouth fell open. HOA fees? Was she serious? The neighbors erupted with murmurs, some outright laughing at the ridiculous claim, but Karen didn't flinch. I shot back, "Karen, your daughter broke into my garage. That's theft. And if you think you can hide behind HOA rules, you're out of your mind. This is criminal, and the police are already on their way." Her face froze for a second, then twisted into a fake smile. "Oh, please," she sneered. "The police won't do a thing. Everyone knows me. I've chaired this HOA for 3 years. Tiffany's record is spotless, and she's a minor. You'll look like a fool wasting their time." Her voice dripped with smug confidence, like she'd rehearsed this speech in the mirror 100 times. The neighbors edged closer now, sensing the storm brewing. Phones were out, recording everything. I could see the flicker of unease in Karen's eyes when she noticed the cameras, but she quickly masked it with another scoff. Tiffany, emboldened by her mother, hopped back on the ATV and revved the engine again, blasting a wave of fumes into my face. "See?" she shouted over the roar. "Untouchable!" She tilted her head back and laughed, the sound echoing off the houses like nails on a chalkboard. My fists clenched tighter, but I forced myself to stay calm. The police were coming, and then, right on cue, I heard the distant wail of sirens growing louder. Tiffany froze for just a moment, her smirk faltering, before she gunned the engine and tried to peel out of the yard. Karen stepped forward, shouting, "Tiffany, don't worry, I'll handle this." But the flashing lights rounded the corner and the squad car came into view. Neighbors stepped back, parting like waves as the cruiser rolled up, stopping right in front of my torn-up lawn. 2 officers stepped out, hands on their belts, scanning the scene. Tiffany's bravado drained just a little as one officer barked, "Kill the engine and step off the vehicle now!" Karen rushed to intercept them, waving her arms. "Officers, officers, this is all a misunderstanding. She's just borrowing it, no harm done." Her voice pitched higher, her fake charm cranked up to full blast. But the officer didn't even look at her. His eyes were on Tiffany, and his tone left no room for argument. "Step off the ATV," he repeated. Tiffany hesitated, looking from her mom to the crowd to the officer, and for the first time I saw it, the tiniest crack in her untouchable facade. Tiffany finally shut off the engine, but she didn't move. She sat frozen on my ATV, arms crossed, glaring at the officer like she was the one in charge. Karen rushed to her side, putting on a smile so fake it could have cracked glass. "She's a good kid," she insisted, her voice sugary sweet. "You don't need to be harsh. She was just testing it out for safety, making sure it works for the community." The officer raised an eyebrow, unimpressed, and pulled out his notepad. "Ma'am, did your daughter have permission to take this vehicle?" Karen's eyes darted around, searching for an answer that wouldn't make her sound guilty. But every neighbor was watching, phones still recording. I stepped forward, my voice steady but sharp. "No, she didn't. She broke into my garage and stole it. Look at the door. It's been forced open. That's destruction of property on top of theft." The officer's gaze shifted from me to the broken latch, then back to Tiffany. She finally slid off the ATV, rolling her eyes dramatically. "Oh my God, this is so stupid," she muttered. "It's not even a big deal. Mom says nothing's gonna happen to me anyway." Her words hung heavy in the air, a spoiled declaration of invincibility that made the crowd gasp again. The second officer stepped closer to Tiffany, his tone firm. "Young lady, you need to understand, this is a crime. You don't get a free pass just because your mom says so." Tiffany scoffed, folding her arms tighter. "You can't arrest me. I'm underage, and my mom runs the HOA. Everyone knows that means we're basically in charge." The officer glanced at his partner, then back at her. "That's not how the law works. Turn around." His hand moved toward his cuffs, and Tiffany's bravado cracked. She stepped back, eyes wide, shaking her head. "Wait, what? You're actually serious?" Karen lunged forward, putting herself between Tiffany and the officer. "You can't do this!" she screeched, her voice echoing across the street. I'll have your badges for this. I know the chief personally, and this entire neighborhood will side with me." But the officer didn't flinch. He looked her dead in the eye and said, "Ma'am, step aside, or you'll be charged with obstruction." The crowd murmured louder now, some neighbors even clapping. Karen's face flushed bright red, but she didn't move. Tiffany whimpered, "Mom, don't let them take me!" Her untouchable mask was gone, replaced with the raw fear of someone realizing consequences were real after all. The officer gently but firmly grabbed Tiffany's wrist, turning her around and cuffing her hands behind her back. The sound of the metal snapping shut echoed louder than the ATV's engine ever had. The neighbors cheered, some shouting things like, "Finally!" and "Justice." Karen shrieked, trying to pull her daughter away, but another officer blocked her path. "Enough, ma'am. Your daughter is being taken in for questioning. You can follow us to the station if you want, but this isn't negotiable." Karen's jaw dropped, and for the first time she was completely speechless. As they guided Tiffany toward the squad car, she screamed, "This isn't fair! I told you I'm untouchable." But the door slammed shut behind her, silencing her tantrum. Karen stood frozen, trembling with rage. But the crowd wasn't on her side anymore. Neighbors shook their heads, whispering about how she'd finally pushed too far. Some even walked over to me, patting me on the shoulder, telling me it was about time someone held that family accountable. I just stood there, exhausted but relieved, watching the car pull away with Tiffany inside. Later that week, word spread that Tiffany had been booked for juvenile theft and property damage. She wasn't locked up for long, but the arrest record stuck. Karen tried to spin the story, claiming it was a misunderstanding blown out of proportion, but the video recordings told the truth. Her power in the neighborhood crumbled overnight. People stopped fearing her. HOA meetings were suddenly filled with residents demanding she step down. And as for me, I finally got my ATV back, though it needed repairs from the abuse Tiffany put it through. The smell of burned rubber and scratched paint was a bitter reminder, but every time I turned the key and heard that engine purr, I remembered that even the untouchable can fall when the truth is undeniable. And that's how Karen's untouchable daughter learned, the hard way, that the law doesn't bend for spoiled entitlement. No matter how much money or fake authority someone thinks they have, the truth always catches up. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Confront her head on, or let the police handle it from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more wild HOA and Karen stories.